If you've read the title of the video and are curious, well, sit back and relax. It's time for another discussion topic that's going to be misconstrued deliberately, because that's the world we live in. Please be sure to leave your thoughts down below. I will put timestamps for each section of the overall topic. The topic of level capping is usually mixed. Some love it, some find it unnecessary. I mean, it is, but I'm indifferent because I've done so many to the point that I find them beyond boring, as I've experienced so many forms of endurance runs, and this video is coming from that perspective, at the same time acknowledging what it is and what it offers, and that it wouldn't hurt to experience it at least once, as level capping is way more accessible nowadays than the earlier days of Warframe. So what is level capping? Some of you already know what that means. For those who don't, it's a form of endurance run in Warframe, referring to the pursuit of fighting enemies at their absolute maximum level, which is level 9,999, but can go up to 10,015 if it's a fisher. So any endless mission, survival, defense, etc. And it can take hours. However, the fastest missions are Disruption and Void Cascade. The reason they're the fastest is because Disruption requires 46 rounds to hit level cap, and only one conduit is required to go to the next round, while Void Cascade requires 107 exolizers. Achieving level cap in these missions can take, on average, an hour, but can be done in less. To achieve record times, it requires many components and factors to be in place, like perfect tile sets, a solid build that has amazing single target TTK, movement tools, familiarity with spawns and environments, so moving from one point to the other is done efficiently without wasting time because you got lost. The fastest disruption I have done was 50 minutes, was a 2-man run with a friend, and we decided to do a run on stream. I was Vault with my Quanta Vandal, and he was Ash with the Quasas. We got to level cap so fast that we decided to go to round 69. Nice. Just for the memes.
We're at round 69.
Way ahead of you. Time to hit the pub.
Bunch of nices, yes.
Can't even see the animation.
Oh, you're extracting? No, sir.
Are we staying?
Yeah, let's do 69 at least. No, no,
Yeah,
not us do 69, but you know, let's do the round 69.
Oh, okay.
Worth it! 215 million!
However, beyond normal gameplay, reaching level 9k is not a necessary part of Warframe's progression or farming for most resources, unless you're in an Omnia Fisher and you want to maximize your rewards, though this does require you to have a decent amount of relics and traces. Although for some, level capping is seen as the ultimate build test, a way for players to thoroughly test the viability and extreme limits of their Warframe's builds, because some frames and setups require absolute optimization and often relies on specific mechanics and gimmicks to survive and deal damage. But then there's Revenant and an Incarnate Weapon. And people use level cap as the definitive way to determine a frame's strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, I don't get it either, but this one people do nowadays. The previous part about testing builds still holds true to a certain extent. Well, it was really the case back in the days. The issue now is that level capping lost its essence. Warframe is too easy. And that also translates to level capping. Meaning, sure, you've done level cap, but it's just the same enemies, but at a higher level. Mechanics don't change, enemies still get one shot with a proper setup for that content. With all the power creep that's in the game, that pursuit doesn't even feel fulfilling. And most level cap content being made feels like slop content. And let's be honest, I did it as well to get those clicks, you know. This weapon or frame destroys level 9,999. You get it, YouTube things. But that doesn't stop people to use level cap as a measurement of a frame's capabilities and viability. I've done level cap with a majority of the frames, including ones that lack shields. Yes, Inaros level cap.
Everybody was here when they saw Inaros against level 9,000. This was a day, unlike any other day.
YouTube, this is the future. Elgarth signing out.
Nice, nice, nice.
You can use any frame, anywhere, just fine. Including level cap, I've also done 6x3s, that's 18 Eidolons in one night, with several odd picks. Loki, Atlas, Sevagoth as Eidolon hunters. Weird, but doable. But it's not the efficient or best option. What I'm trying to say is, good frames can be good regardless of the content, and some of them will specialize in that content. While bad frames have a cult-like following of people that will cling to them and use level capping as validity of their frame's greatness. Alright, more on this, just to put things into perspective. Think of frames as universal but flawed tools, and the player's vision mostly determines what the frame can do, but vision and determination will not help you against frames that are just better at their jobs than others, versus frames that are just generic tools and are defined by one or two abilities and a weapon or augment synergy. Let me paint a picture. Imagine you've got this awesome piece of gear. Its big selling point is its versatility in a majority of your gameplay influence. You can literally equip this thing and take it anywhere in the game. It works on 90% of the enemy types and has some kind of effect in every environment. Here's the catch. And it can be a significant one, depending on what you're trying to do. While this tool works in a fair majority of situations, it rarely excels in areas that matter. Let's say when you enter a specialized challenge, say a high-level boss fight with unique mechanics, an area filled with enemies highly resistant to its type of damage, or a mechanic that you cannot phase because it's a specific interaction, the tool starts to struggle. I've played a lot of Elden Ring recently, but this topic translates to every game. Damage output against an enemy with specific elemental or weapon type weaknesses, the tool's type of damage might feel like you're hitting them with a wet noodle. Your specialized plus 25 fire greatsword would melt a frost golem in seconds. Get it? Because fire and ice? While that favorite tool of yours would bounce off or take minutes. From a game design perspective, the tool serves a crucial purpose. And when it comes to player onboarding, it's a great tool for new or casual players to learn the game without getting overwhelmed by specific gear requirements. Maybe its accessibility, as it has a lower barrier to entry for many activities, while in some cases it encourages specialization. Its limitations naturally push players to seek out and understand specialized gear for optimizing performance in tougher content. It creates a satisfying progression curve where you start with the generalist, then graduate to mastery through specialized tools. For example, let's say Eidolon hunting with Titania. Not the best, but can be really fun if you're into that. You like a Volt shield to amplify your amp's damage, so you would rely on the Mutilus Quanta bubbles, but now seem to be bugged and don't provide you with any benefit. You know, the usual Warframe stuff. But you can still increase your damage with a Relay Blessing, which functions as a universal damage buff for everything, including your amps. The Eidolon Synovia has its own damage reduction once you break through its Void shields. The Eidolons are also immune to status effects, so you have to mod for raw damage crit builds, enabling you to burst down the Synovias in order to skip additional annoying mechanics. So to reduce the defenses, you want to use the Vastlock Gunblade equipped with Shattering Impact to strip the armor. For Titania's Dexpixia, you need to focus on having a lot of strength, base damage, crits, multi-shot, and of course raw radiation damage. And on the Warframe, using Arcane Precision. So when you shoot the head, you gain a 300% base damage buff for your pistols. And Enervate on your Dexpixia for some additional crits. Compared to Volt, she had to jump through so many additional hoops to make it work, but it's doable. Stuff like this was really fun and engaging. I mean, for me, until DE destroyed Eidolon hunting and Plains of Eidolon being bugged to shit, leaving it to be dead content. But remember guys, I'm just a hater, you know? But all of that didn't matter because you're still gonna slap on Roar, Nourish on Revenant, and use your Torrid Incarnate. I'm kidding. Sad reality is that players are using level cap as their own endgame because Warframe unfortunately does not have an actual endgame. People cope and say endgame is what you make of it. Well, no. Endgame is endgame. Warframe is a constant loop of farm new item to then farm another item while using those new items to blow stuff even faster so you can get the new item to blow that stuff that you're blowing up faster even faster in a fancier way. This of course is fine if there was an actual ideal goal in mind. Doing whatever without a goal does make the game feel empty. Not in the way you would think. but in a way that would matter. Warframe should in fact play into its strengths, creating amazing and beautiful worlds that actually feel lived in, while having more involved content that is meaningful and not maxed out and completed in an hour of the update releasing. Yes, this is an unfortunate fact that every new update that is released is usually maxed out and completed within an hour. The only time where this isn't a thing is if the content is time gated. And let's be honest, a lot of people hate the artificial time gate. Warframe is a game for casual players to embody gods and have a blast with power fantasy. Enjoy the game however you like. While power fantasy is often a core appeal of video games, too much of it can actually detract from the overall gaming experience. It's a delicate balance, and when tilted too far, it can lead to several issues. And oh boy, I've seen many players go through this when playing Warframe. The lack of challenge, and sometimes meaningless progression. This is the steamroll effect, when players become overwhelmingly powerful too quickly, or the game's difficulty doesn't scale adequately. Every encounter becomes trivial, enemies are easily dispatched, and obstacles become mere speed bumps. This robs the players of the satisfaction that comes from overcoming a genuine challenge. I've seen many new players come and go because they got the best build, nuke steel path, and are left with the same question. So what's next? What's the end game? Wait, there's no end game? Yeah, if victory is guaranteed, then what's the point? That epic win feels less epic when you knew you couldn't lose. The sense of mastery of yearning mechanics, strategizing, and executing effectively is lost, which was not the case when playing Warframe back in the days. Team synergies are no longer needed. I remember I did a 9-hour survival level cap with the boys back in the days, before shield gating. Yeah, where getting shot by a stray bullet would result in instant death. When enemy grenades were not telegraphed or indicated, you just had to guess the distance and location by the beeping sound. Where 4 people were required in the team, and they all needed to have corrosive projection in the aura. Enemies way more aggressive and would rush you if you hid in a corner. Oh, by the way, if you go invisible in front of enemies nowadays, they completely lose track of you. Back then, if you went invis in front of enemies, they would immediately shoot the last point you popped your invis. So if you didn't move or use rolling guard before going invis, you would get one shot. Yeah, those days. You definitely had some butt-clenching moments. When there's no real threat or interesting decision-making gameplay, it quickly devolves into repetitive, mindless button mashing. Prime example, melee influence and slam builds. Players disengage emotionally and mentally, leading to boredom and eventually abandoning the game. This originally did start off as a discussion of level cap and how stupid it is because people use it as a way to measure a frame's viability. The fact still remains true. It doesn't really matter what you use. There's always going to be something better and stronger. It doesn't mean you have to stop using that frame or item. Just acknowledge its flaws and that you're hard coping just because you refuse to accept reality. I fully understand there's a huge issue with the game, and that doesn't stop people from playing how they want, because that's how you have fun, and that's what I do as well. Everyone has fun differently, because fun is subjective. But generally speaking, there's going to be a major disparity in versatility when it comes to strong versus your average builds. If one build is clearly overpowered, other options become suboptimal and are ignored. This reduces the diversity of playstyles and can make players feel they're playing the wrong way if they don't follow the meta. And I personally do hate that, because I love to do things my way and push through. Like when I refused to explore Limgrave and focused on the Tree Sentinel on my first playthrough of Elden Ring. I eventually killed it, but man, it did feel good doing so. Even though I knew I could have made that fight a million times easier if I ignored him and farmed to get stronger. And then there's this weird thing that tends to happen in Warframe quite often than not. When people see strong builds, they oppose them or pretend they don't exist and will brute force and cope because that's how they want to play their game. And that's just fine. But don't say that those builds you're ignoring are not viable or better than what you're using. So while your frame is fantastic for getting you through the majority of your gameplay, when the going gets truly tough, you'll find yourself yearning for something with a fine, sharper edge. It's the difference between a Swiss Army knife and a precision scalpel. And for the love of God, don't let level cap be the only determining factor for what's good or bad for your experience in Warframe. Holy crap, that was a lot of yapping and repeating myself. Anyway, folks, that has been it from me. I do hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video. And if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching. And as always, a peace. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.